I'm Pam Gregory. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of May, and in particular the new moon that we have coming up in Gemini on the 25th. Now, you might remember that the nodal axis has moved on the 9th of May from Virgo Pisces into Leo Aquarius, and it's going to stay there, moving backwards through Leo Aquarius for the next 18 months till November 2018. Now, this potentially is so positive for us because Leo is about leadership and it's big. So as I mentioned last time, it can manifest as big, nationalistic, possibly autocratic leadership, but at a higher level, it's coming from the heart. Leo is heart energy. It's big-hearted leadership. It's generous. It's highly principled. It has integrity. It's creative. Leo is one of the most creative signs. So for us as individuals, this is about becoming leaders ourselves and looking to the South Node Aquarius, becoming leaders in our own individual interests, things that we have passion for. So that's going to be running for the next 18 months, and we can use it very creatively and very, very positively. For the second half of May also, we have a pretty close square between Venus and Pluto. This becomes exact on the 26th at 19 of Aries for Venus and 19 of Capricorn for Pluto. Now, whenever you get a Venus-Pluto combination, there's a feeling of intense feelings, extreme feelings. And Venus has the generalized meaning of love, so this can well manifest in relationships. It could be independence versus security, Aries versus Capricorn. It can bring up very strong feelings around possessiveness or control or manipulation or who has the power. It can be financial issues because Venus is also linked to money. But these have come up periodically, these strong aspects to Pluto. So just remember, after the second half of May, Venus moves on, so don't be too impulsive, particularly don't be too impulsive around about the 26th of the month, because not only is this square exact then, but the moon is conjunct Mars at 23 of Gemini, so that can be quite impulsive. So just breathe, just let that pass so you can be more objective about that situation. Now, we had a pretty revved up mindset through the first half of May because we had Mercury conjunct Uranus, which speeds up the mind, takes the mind to a higher octave. And it was in Aries as well, so we expected in the first half of May some surprising or shocking news, and I think we certainly had that in the world. But it revs up the mind to produce some brilliant and original thinking, but it can be quite accelerated in the mind. Now, the good news is that Mercury is moving on into Taurus. On the 16th of the month, it enters Taurus, and that's much more stabilising. Having said that, on the 25th of the month at 12:44 p.m. Pacific and 8:44 p.m. UK time, we have a new moon in Gemini, 4 degrees 46 minutes of Gemini. Now, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's the sign of the mind and the mental function. So again, we have the emphasis here on the mind because we have the sun, the moon, which are always together at a new moon, and we also have Mars in Gemini to energize that mental side. So you still might feel that the mind is very active. See where this new moon, new beginning falls for you at 5 degrees of Gemini, so you can use the ideas that are coming through, because this is very good for creativity and ideas too. See where that falls in your chart. We've got something really beautiful at this new moon. Again, it's involving Mercury, and this is what's known as a finger of fate or a finger of God. It's like a very long, thin triangle with Jupiter at the apex, and at the base we have Mercury and Neptune. Jupiter's at 13 of Libra. Now, this combination is really mystical. It's beautiful. It's about otherworldly thinking. It's about inspiration, imagination, again, creativity. But it gives a bigger picture, it goes beyond the everyday to give us a much bigger picture, a much more spiritually based picture, if you like, of whatever is happening for you at that time. And really echoing that theme, we've got this ongoing square between Saturn at 26 of Sagittarius and Chiron now at 28 of Pisces. And as I've mentioned in past videos, this is calling us to live more deeply. It's calling us to live with deeper meaning. So although Gemini, in its less positive expression, can be a little bit scattered and go wide rather than deep, we have other aspects here at this new moon which enable us to see the bigger picture and enable us to go deeper into whatever is happening for us at that time. Now, although the new moon pattern itself isn't too intense, I always like to look at the Sabian symbols, and there's a very interesting one for 5 of Gemini. And it is a revolutionary magazine, and by that they mean a storehouse of ammunition, which could of course be metaphorical, asking for action. The explosive tendency of repressed feelings and root emotions. That's very interesting because it reminds us of that Scorpio full moon that we've just been through. You know, that feeling of intense repressed emotions being pushed down. So if you haven't fully released anything that even could be from way back in the past that you're still feeling intensely about, there's another opportunity with this Sabian symbol at this new moon to just free it, to enable you to move on more lightly with a lighter footprint. That's very much the new moon in Gemini. It's about the birth of new ideas, new moon in Gemini. And then at the last week of May, we have an opposition between Mars in Gemini, Mars at by now 25 of Gemini, and Saturn at 25 of Sagittarius, and that's exact on the 28th and 29th of the month. Now this is very interesting. I see this in the charts of military people who worked in the armed forces, because it's about disciplined action. The integration of these two principles is about discipline. Now, when the two principles of Mars and Saturn aren't integrated, it can be hot and cold, or action and frustration and delay, requiring patience. But when you integrate them, it is about disciplined action. And the action could well be in the area of communication, because it's Gemini Sagittarius. So this can give us a very productive ending to the month that's very strong. So there's a lot going on this month. I sense that this second half of May gives us a little bit of a breather before we go into June, and then we have a strong feeling of building into July and the eclipse season with that total solar eclipse, which is going to be extraordinary. That comes in August. So just take a breath before we get back into some very strong energy, and enjoy the wonderful new moon in Gemini on the 25th. Thanks so much for listening. Oh, and if you don't know where this falls in your chart, check out the link above. That will take you to my store and will explain everything you know about the "what does it mean for me" question. Thanks a lot.